Hello, JDs and Lintelmen. I have no idea what I'm doing with this video. I'm trying to experiment with different video styles. I like the idea of kind of just like using B-roll from Coven SMP, that's what you're watching right now by the way, to just kind of like talk over. So today, I've got a collection of 4 obscure games that I don't really ever see people talking about online, and I'm gonna make you listen to me talk about them. You should play all of these. There's one on this list that you should especially play, but you should check out all of them. I have no idea how I'm going to transition into this. Woo! In Ghost Trick the Phantom Detective, you play as a ghost who uses various tricks to manipulate objects, along with the ability to travel back in time 4 minutes before someone's death to revive them in order to solve his own murder. He has no idea why he was killed, and not even the witnesses know why he was killed. It's a phenomenal puzzle game that is full of really cool set pieces, a lot of really, really clever puzzles. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but a lot of really cool puzzles that just make you feel like an absolute genius when you beat them, except for the stealth level. I really didn't like that one. The thing that really hooked me at first was the absolutely phenomenal mystery that the game opens up with and then continues to deepen for about 2/3 of the game. And the other thing is that there's a dog named Missile, and I love Missile. The visuals are gorgeous, every character in the game has phenomenally expressive movements, which I appreciate as a 3D animator. And I should mention the music, but I played this game on my DS during Christmas break while I was watching Fiona and Cake on my phone, so I didn't actually listen to the music. But the songs that I have heard off YouTube are phenomenal. Next up, we have Murder by Numbers. I played this game like 5 years ago, and I haven't played it since because I want to forget as much about it as I can. So, you know, I've probably forgotten a lot about it. So you play as Honor, a former actress and current detective who's joined by an amnesiac robot named Scout. Don't ask me for Honor's last name or for what Scout stands for. I'm afraid to try and pronounce her last name, and I'm a little bit terrified to try to figure out what Scout stands for. I'm certain that it's brought up in-game. Go play it. In the game, it's kind of similar to Professor Layton, where you're presented with, like, the big mystery of the chapter, and you go around and you, like, carefully examine stuff, like an Ace Attorney, and work through Picross. Instead of, like, puzzles from Professor Layton, you go through nonograms and Picross. They're the same thing. I actually just learned that, like, today. I always thought that they were, like, slightly different, but no, Picross and nonograms are the same thing. Anyway, like I was saying, though, you use Picross to replace all the different puzzles in Professor Layton. It's a relatively short game, but I think that that's actually pretty reasonable, because I feel like there's not a lot of ways to make Picross wildly different outside of what they already did, which is kind of just make the boards bigger, increase difficulty, increase complexity, and every now and then throw in timed puzzle challenges that aren't making an image, that are just asking you to solve a problem in 30 seconds or less. There's also the challenge of trying to get higher ranks, because the higher a rank you'll get on the stage, the more of the challenge levels that you'll unlock, which all focus on Scout before he got amnesia, before whatever happens in the main story. I think that the writing of the game is really sweet. There's a lot of, like, heart and genuine excitement that the writers and the artists and the musicians all had. And there's just so much sincerity dripping from the game, and it's just so sweet. They made an animated opening for the game. You don't do that if you don't love your game. And listen, man, I just really like Picross, and back in, like, 2021-ish, I just really frickin' wanted to play Picross, man. For the next game, we're gonna go wildly off topic for a second. Have you guys ever heard of Pokemon Rebirth? It's like this manga where, for some reason, the humans, like, transform into their captured Pokemon or something. I've seen random individual, like, screenshots of out-of-context panels, so it seems absolutely wild, but I am absolutely certain that it makes complete and perfect sense. Anyway, Cassette Beasts is basically that manga, but as a full-on game. You and one of several teammates use cassettes to capture monsters, which you can then transform into while you search for a way to escape some weird island that everyone's caught on. There's some really cool theming of, like, people from different time periods and even different worlds being caught here, and it makes the town and other just civilizations that you find really, really interesting because of the people specifically. Like you might expect, this is a relatively similar game to the Pokemon franchise. As a turn-based RPG, you usually have yourself and you have another party member and you guys fight other monsters, and occasionally you'll fight like other people who have also transformed. Rather than one action per turn, however, you have an AP system where different abilities will cost more or less AP, and you gain 1 AP at the beginning of every turn. There's also the relatively standard types in the game. You get things like fire and ice and plant and water and electricity, and then you have weird ones like glass and plastic and cutter. Rather than these type matchups doubling and halving and negating damage, they provide really weird effects, like how plastic gets melted into poison by fire, or astral gets energized when hit by the 4 elements to gain more AP, or anytime glitter gets hit by something, it copies its type. And then we have the other really interesting mechanic of fusion. Once you actually start getting to know one of your partners, and once you're in a life or death situation together, you can start fusing, and it looks like every single monster in Cassette Beasts has unique fusions with every single other monster, which is an insane number of permutations for me to think about, but I suck at math, so we're gonna ignore it. Fusions kind of turn the AP system around a little bit, where now you're kind of trying to conserve your AP a lot, because you have an uber powerful move that you get to do at 10 AP. Also, the whole game, you get to see how much AP your opponents have, and so you can kind of try and predict what they're gonna do with how much AP they might have. And then, also, there's just so many little things. Pokemon is, in my opinion, most of the games that I've played, though granted, the only ones that I've really played in the main series are some of the worst ones according to the internet, but I don't care about those opinions. Pokemon tends to have a habit of pull up the type chart on your phone and make sure that you have a Pokemon of every type and then press the correct button to win. And it's just not great, especially considering all of the really interesting lore. Cassette Beasts changes that, because, again, the types are really weird matchups. The types are no longer just, oh, I'm going to burn a plant and now I deal more damage. It's something like, oh, I'm going to melt this plastic and now it's poison, but if I keep hitting this poison type with fire, I believe it actually gets buffed now. And that's just so interesting. Additionally, there's the AP system, again, like I stated, that plays so well with those debuffs, because there's a lot of types that their buff or debuff is changes to their AP. Astral types, as I mentioned earlier, gain more AP when hit with specific elemental types. And then, there's so many really amazing characters, and you get a ton of various party members that you get to travel with. Like Eugene, who's defending the city of New Whirl from land keepers who are planning to buy all of the land in New Whirl at incredibly low prices and then sell them for incredibly high prices, because that's just what they do. There is a dog. If I had a nickel for every game that I had talked about today that had a Pomeranian as a major character in the story, I'd have 2 nickels.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?
Another thing that I really like is that these party members, the other people that you're traveling with, that's who you need to level up. You don't have to level up every single one of the hundreds of monsters that you might end up collecting. I don't actually think they break 100 in the game, but you know what I mean. You just have to go, hang out with your friends and every now and then go, oh my gosh, holy frick, I haven't spoken to Meredith in 2 months. And so you just, go over and you grab Meredith and you wander around. Additionally, monsters, solid designs. I'm pretty easy to humor with Pokemon designs, to be totally honest. I'm a fan of, the monkey but it's on fire, or horse but it's zappy kind of designs. But, Traffic Crab. Go look up Traffic Crab. It's like a hermit crab with a traffic cone, and I love it. Also, the story is absolutely bat crap insane. Like, there's a good amount of, like, intrigue and mystery around, like, oh, you know, how did we get here to New World? What's going on with this world? What's happening? How do we get home? And as you travel through the game, you kind of, like, I really don't know a good way to explain it without getting into spoilers at all, but what I will say is literally just, like, it goes from about 0 to, like, 5 in about the time you would expect, and then it goes from 5 to 684 in 12 seconds! I think it's really funny how the first 2 games that I talked about, I talked for like a minute or 2. My recording for this game is currently a little over 6 minutes, so you can tell that I'm completely normal about this game. I cannot wait to see more from these developers. I would absolutely love to see kind of just like another game that expands on concepts from Cassette Beasts. Oh, I get to talk about Crosscode now. There's no way I'm gonna be normal about this game. Okay, so the basic plot of Crosscode, what you're given at the beginning of the game, is you're playing as a girl named Lei, who has amnesia. There was some kind of accident, some guy named Sergey found her and brought her to a hospital, and trying to figure out who she was, they discovered that she had an account in the Full Dive VR MMO of Crossworlds. So they loaded her up, her account was wiped for some reason. Great, hopefully playing will bring back your memories. And then there's a really interesting twist to all that. It's that Lei can't speak. There's a really common bug in Crossworlds that just, like, screws with the way that you process language, and you're just unable to speak, you're unable to write, you're unable to sign. Good luck. Plot aside, the game is fast-paced combat action RPG, where you basically have, like, 4 different things you do, and you don't take turns. Split-second decisions, woo! You get to dodge or guard. The difference is, are you moving, basically. You get to throw balls, and then you get to perform relatively simple melee attacks that, like, kind of combo. I'm not actually entirely certain if melee is stronger or not. My gut tells me that it is, but the rest of me tells me that it probably isn't. And then also there's this really solid mechanic where you have to, like, charge up and actually aim your thrown attacks in this game. I will be honest, I don't think I've ever seen any other game that, like, makes you stop and aim unless it's, like, a first-person shooter type game, or, like, a third-person shooter type game, or unless aiming is a major part of it, like, a major part of the core gameplay loop. In this, the way that it works is if you just point your mouse and you start chucking these little balls, you will be throwing them wildly, but you'll slowly start, like, focusing down on one spot. Or you can pause, charge up a larger ball, and then throw it right off the bat, like, as accurate as you can get it. And that larger ball will bounce around and can be used for a lot of really interesting puzzles, along with, like weird terrain and, like, different interactables. And then you get to add in the fact that there's 4 different elements, 5 if you count neutral, that all interact with certain projectiles and certain objects differently. For example, fire melts ice. Obviously, nothing else does that. There's these weird little spots that you can teleport to with wave. There's, like, these weird little bomb things that do a different thing depending on depending on which element you hit them. It's so cool. And then there's also a really fun cooldown system with the elements, where you are objectively more powerful in an elemental form. However, you can't keep it up forever, because if you are using too many elements too long, you'll hit an overload and you'll just get locked in a neutral. You don't take damage, you don't, like, lose access to everything, you just are stuck at your basic moveset for a bit. And that basic moveset is really just, like, your core moveset. You have a really cool skill tree where you can expand your core moveset as well as each of the 4 elements. So you could take your cold element and adjust all of your skills so that your whole job as a cold elementist is literally, I'm gonna sit here and I'm going to become an actual literal tank that fires ice spikes everywhere. Or you could be a fire elementist and just, like, blast lasers, and you can change it on the fly. You don't get to change your skill tree mid-combat, but you do get to change your element mid-combat by literally just, like, scrolling on your mouse, and it's so good. Also, this is, like, one of the first games that I actually really enjoyed grinding in. Like, normally I absolutely hate grinding in games. There have been so many times in which I've tried to play a full proper RPG, like Pokemon, or like I tried playing Persona 3 Portable when I was in high school, a couple of other things like this, where there's always this point where the game expects you to stop with the fun stuff and just go kill the same 6 enemies a billion times until you're level 45. And up until I played Crosscode, it was always my least favorite part of the game. And, you know, then later I played Cassette Beasts, and I played Persona 5 Royal, and now I'm currently playing Pokemon Legenza. I've refused to pronounce that correctly. And I actually really enjoy the way that grinding works in those games, because it's not excessive, and the gameplay is varying enough that it never feels like you're just fighting the same 5 guys, and when you are, it's because you're supposed to be moving on. But I was in, like the second main area of Crosscode. It's called Bergen Trail. It's like an ice level. Take a wild guess what element you unlock there. That's right, fire. And I realized that I was really enjoying grinding for levels because they have a really good, like, chain system, where every time you get into a battle, you know, you clear out all your enemies, and a little timer starts up in the corner. And if it ticks down, and then you're no longer in combat, and combat state stuff ends, the combat music stops, you're able to, like, use items freely with minimal cooldown, you're able to, like, screw with all your items, etc., etc., and it's when you get, like, your experience from the battle. But instead of just letting that timer tick down, you can just go start another fight, run over here and pick a fight with this snowman that has a Gatling gun, or pick a fight with this, I think it's like a prairie dog or something. What are the Hillicats? I actually don't know. Anyway, pick a fight with, like, a prairie dog rocking out on some sick tunes. Or, like, you know, go attack whatever that plant monster thing is. Or this ninja bug. Those are all in, like, wildly different areas of the game. And if you manage to attack all of them in one chain, I'd be really impressed, considering the fact that I'm pretty sure that the chain actually ends if you pass through, like, major towns. Anyway, I'm getting off subject. But the longer you keep up this fight state, the more of a chain you'll develop. And you'll start getting, like, bonus experience the longer your chain is, and enemies will start respawning faster, which will let you keep up your chain longer, and you'll start getting better drops. I'm pretty sure that there are some quests that actually require you to go to the highest tier of chain attack that you can, just in order to get the items. Also, your various party members will actually make comments about the chains that you do. If you, like, start one fight and finish it, everyone will be like, oh yeah, you know, that was a good fight. But if you spend forever at the highest rank of chain battle, when you end, all your party members are like, Lay, what the frick is wrong with you? Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Can we go take a nap now? And it's actually just really sweet. Oh my gosh, in my little outline that I made for myself, I forgot to even mention the characters. I love the characters. Some of my favorites in basically any fictional setting that I have ever played through. Like, genuinely, these characters are going to stick with me for a long time, and the only reason why I'm upset about that is because I won't be able to get through plot twists anymore. But actually, speaking of plot twists, they handle a trope that I kind of hate really well. Lay can't communicate, and so you'd think that there would be a lot of sequences throughout the game that are like, oh, here's some drama because Lay can't just say what she's thinking, and it actually handles it really well by, like, other characters figure out what's going on with all this drama, and, like, Citron comes in and says, hey, Emily, you're angry at Lay. Lay can't explain herself, will you please ask her questions? And all of that comes to a head in one of, like, the late game areas, where I'm gonna be relatively vague about this to avoid spoilers, but, like, you should probably skip ahead if this game sounds interesting, like, pause the video, go play the game right now. This is the game that I think that everyone watching needs to play. Go play Crosscode. This is a threat. And financial advice. 2 of those things can be true. So there is this place in Crossworlds called the Vermilion Wasteland that Lay and one of her friends get, like, stuck in. and there's all of this, like, old stuff that players probably aren't supposed to have access to, and some of it starts really freaking Lei out, like, giving her, like, anxiety attacks. That isn't me trying to be, like, dramatic about this. She, like, straight up has this anxiety attack here, and is just, like, freaking out and sobbing, and the friend that she's with literally just sits down and is like, yeah, you can't say anything about this. I bet that sucks. Do you want me to sit here and ask questions and try to help you feel better? And he basically talks her down from this panic attack by sitting down with her, quietly talking, and just asking questions about what he can do to help. My younger brother is mostly nonverbal. He is able to vocalize, but he isn't able to speak extensively. And I'm gonna be honest, that scene in Crosscode actually really helped me figure out how to emphasize, that's not the right word, how to empathize with my younger brother, with him having to deal with this, just because of how carefully and lovingly it is shown to the viewer. And it's such a sweet moment, and that was the point in the game that I realized that it was something truly, genuinely special that was going to stick with me for the rest of my life. Outside of that, the comedy in the game is absolutely phenomenal. Very early on, you meet a character named Apollo, who is an obnoxious anime protagonist, if I had to describe him briefly, who believes that Lei is cheating because she has about 3 or 4 extra experience points and thus leveled up about 12 seconds before everyone else normally would. And he spends like a solid half of the game chasing you down to like argue with you and like go after you with duels and like challenge you to public PvP matches because you're besmirching the good name of the Spheromancer class, which is the class that Lei is in the MMO, as well as the class that Apollo is. Apollo's great. I love the guy. He's an idiot, but I love him. This section is 11 minutes long, and I could continue talking. I think I will spare you. I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to end this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to do this again sometime. Let me talk about random nonsense. See you later.